In this exploration, we'll journey through the ancient texts, uncovering the biblical destiny of Iran. We'll see how Persia's rise, its role in the fate of Israel, and its prophesied future all point to a nation whose story is inseparable from the story of God's people and God's plan for the world. The ancient roots, Genesis, and the birth of nations. To understand Iran's place in biblical prophecy, we must first travel back to the earliest chapters of the Bible. After the Great Flood, humanity began again through Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Genesis 10 records the so-called Table of Nations, mapping out the descendants who would become the world's peoples. Among these descendants are two names crucial to Iran's story: Madai, son of Japheth, and Elam, son of Shem. Madai's lineage settled in the north, in the region we now know as Media, while Elam's descendants established themselves in the southwest, near the Persian Gulf. These two groups, the Medes and the Elamites, would become the foundation stones of the Persian Empire. The first international conflict in the Bible, described in Genesis 14, features the king of Elam leading a coalition to invade Canaan. They even capture Lot, Abraham's nephew. But Abraham, with a small band, defeats these eastern kings and rescues Lot. This story is more than ancient history. It's a sign that God's purposes for his people cannot be thwarted, no matter how powerful their enemies. The rise of empires, Media, Elam, and the birth of Persia. Centuries pass, and the tribes of Elam and Madai grow into powerful kingdoms. The Medes, under King Dyasis, unite their people and establish the first imperial capital on Iranian soil. Their successors transform the kingdom into a formidable force, eventually toppling the mighty Assyrian Empire. Meanwhile, the Elamites remain a significant power in the region, often interacting with, and sometimes oppressing, the people of Israel. But the most pivotal moment comes when the Medes and Persians unite under a single banner, forming the empire that will change world history: Persia. Prophecy and fulfillment: Isaiah, Jeremiah, and the coming of Cyrus. The prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah, writing centuries before these events, deliver stunning prophecies about Persia's destiny. Isaiah, in a remarkable passage, names a future Persian king, Cyrus, who will become God's chosen instrument. This prophecy is so specific that skeptics have long debated its authenticity, yet history confirms its accuracy. Isaiah 44, 28, and 45, 1 declare, "Who says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he shall fulfill all my purpose, saying of Jerusalem, she shall be built, and of the temple, your foundation shall be laid. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped, to subdue nations before him." Jeremiah 2 foretells that a northern alliance, including the Medes, will be God's tool to judge Babylon, the empire that destroyed Jerusalem. These prophecies are fulfilled when Cyrus the Great conquers Babylon in 539 BC and issues a decree, allowing the Jewish exiles to return home and rebuild their temple. Cyrus's actions mark one of the most extraordinary moments in biblical history. A pagan king, moved by God, becomes a deliverer for Israel. Persia, once a distant nation, now stands at the center of God's redemptive plan. Daniel's visions: Persia's place in the divine timeline. As a young exile in Babylon, Daniel is granted visions that reveal the succession of world empires. In Nebuchadnezzar's dream, interpreted by Daniel, a statue made of various metals represents the kingdoms to come. The chest and arms of silver symbolize the Medo-Persian Empire, destined to follow Babylon. Daniel's own visions add further detail. In Daniel 7, he sees a bear raised up on one side, representing the Medo-Persian Empire, with Persia ultimately dominating. The bear's three ribs in its mouth symbolize its conquest of Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. In Daniel 8, the vision of a ram with two horns, one higher than the other, again points to the Medes and Persians, with Persia rising above. But Daniel also foresees Persia's eventual fall. A swift goat from the west, Alexander the Great of Greece, will shatter the ram, signaling the end of Persian supremacy. These prophecies unfold with breathtaking precision, confirming the Bible's reliability and Persia's central role in God's plan. The Book of Esther: Persia as Protector. Persia's biblical story is not only about conquest and prophecy, but also about miraculous deliverance. The book of Esther unfolds in the Persian capital of Susa, where a Jewish orphan named Esther becomes queen. When a royal decree threatens the annihilation of all Jews in the empire, Esther risks her life to reveal her identity and plead for her people. Her courage leads to the downfall of the plotter Haman and the salvation of the Jewish community. The Persian Empire, once a threat, becomes a shield for God's people. The Magi, Persian wisdom, and the birth of Christ. Centuries after Persia's political dominance fades, its spiritual legacy endures. The Gospel of Matthew tells of Magi, wise men from the east, who travel to Jerusalem guided by a star, seeking the newborn king of the Jews. The term Magi refers to a priestly caste from the Medo-Persian tradition, renowned for their knowledge of astronomy and prophecy. It is likely they were familiar with the writings of Daniel, who had served in the Persian court centuries earlier. These Magi recognize the significance of the star and bring gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, symbols of kingship, divinity, and sacrifice. Their journey fulfills prophecy and demonstrates that Persia, the nation that once freed Israel, is the first to honor the Messiah. Persia in the End Times, the prophecies of Ezekiel and Jeremiah. But Persia's story does not end with the birth of Christ. The prophet Ezekiel, in chapters 38 and 39, describes a future coalition of nations, led by Gog of the land of Magog, that will rise against Israel in the last days. Among the first named allies is Persia, alongside Cush, likely Sudan, Put, possibly Libya, Gomer, and Togarmah, regions near Turkey and the Caucasus. This alliance will surge like a storm against Israel, but God will intervene with judgment, earthquakes, fire, and confusion, demonstrating his sovereignty to the nations. Persia, once a deliverer, becomes part of a coalition judged by God. Yet, even in judgment, the Bible hints at a future hope. Jeremiah delivers a lesser-known prophecy about Elam, ancient southwestern Iran. I will shatter the bow of Elam, the backbone of its strength. Yet, in the last days, I will restore the fortunes of Elam, declares the Lord. This dual prophecy promises both judgment and eventual restoration. Even as Iran joins the end times coalition against Israel, God leaves the door open for redemption. Lessons from Persia's prophetic journey. Iran's biblical history mirrors the human story, created, redeemed, judged, and offered grace. From its earliest days in Genesis, through its redemptive acts under Cyrus, to its future role in prophecy, Persia is ever present in the unfolding narrative of God's plan. Its destiny serves both as a warning to those who oppose God and a promise to those who turn to him. In Zechariah's final vision, all nations, including those once hostile to Israel, are invited to worship the king in Jerusalem. Perhaps among them stands Elam, restored and redeemed. The story of Iran in the Bible is not just ancient history. It is a living narrative, echoing in today's headlines and inviting every nation to choose its place in God's unfolding plan. Are we witnessing these prophecies unfold in our time? Iran's actions on the world stage, its alliances and ambitions, seem to echo the biblical script. But the story is not finished. The Bible's message is clear. Even those who stand against God's people can find redemption if they turn to him. From Genesis to Revelation, Persia's journey is a testament to God's sovereignty, justice, and mercy. As we watch history unfold, we are reminded that no nation's fate is sealed beyond the reach of grace. The destiny of Iran, like that of every nation, ultimately rests in the hands of the one who writes history and fulfills prophecy. What do you think? Are we living in the days foretold by the prophets? Share your thoughts and continue the conversation as we seek to understand the mysteries of prophecy and the destiny of nations.